The following is a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.
Welcome back to K4Wins at K4Wins. Of course, on our YouTube channel on the Tony Kurre Radio Network. We can hear this show numerous times every single day. After, of course, it airs live here on our YouTube channel, not to mention, of course, on the Coastal Sports Network. Thanks to Angel's entire crew for having us on. Upper left-hand corner, Case Kiefer, Executive Director, Editor of the Las Vegas Sun, joins us out there live in Las Vegas. Right below him, Kai Gregory, a man who's been doing this for over 40 years, knows everything about both sides of the gambling gamut. And, of course, right below me, Kip Kiefer, who has been pretty much the Howard Stern, the king of all media lately. He's been all over the place, doing a fantastic job, and also the Executive Director of the Birmingham Racecourse Casino, owned by the Porch Creek Indians here in Birmingham. I'm Tony Kurre, Sports Radio and ESPN guy for like the last 35 or 40 years. Good morning, gentlemen. Everything good for you guys? How's everything going?
Hey, fellas. Happy weekend.
Happy weekend to you, too. It is a Friday. Before we jump into the big, beautiful bill, you're like, what? We don't take politics. No, we don't. We don't like to talk any politics. We stay away from that shit on this show, but we do have something that's very, very important. If you are a gambler, we'll get into that next. But what was our record last week, Kai?
Well, so since the podcast Tuesday, we keep up with that. But we were 2-0 on Tuesday on posted. We were 1-0 Wednesday and 1-0 Thursday. A little bit light. There's not, a lot of baseball or no baseball except for the All-Star game. But 4-0, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So not horrible. Help you out a little bit. Record year to date, 561, 310, and 4.
There you go. Second half of the season starts tonight. Your Bo Sox are on a 10-game winning streak. I know you feel pretty good about that. 3 games out in their division. So we'll get into some Major League Baseball coming up in the second half, maybe some second half future bets we can get in as well. I always like to throw out a nice question to Case because he is the cornerstone of the show, because he is the gambling mecca. American taxpayer sifting through the details of this nearly 900-page domestic policy known as the Big Beautiful Bill, a measure that Republican lawmakers tucked into the bill late that a lot of people weren't aware of. Alters the tax code in such a way that bettors who break even can still end up owing money to the Internal Revenue Service. In the past, whenever I went to Las Vegas and say I hit like $4,000 on a machine, then I can always say I lost $4,000. I break even. I don't owe any taxes. You don't pay any money if you break even. Now they're saying that if you win $100,000, you lose $100,000, you're still going to owe 10% because it doesn't cover all that. And the outcries of the new gambling tax law for us, I guess for your average gambler who may have a guy around the corner or maybe even a guy that's on a FanDuel situation or ESPN bets, I don't know if this is such an important thing, but for Las Vegas, it's huge, isn't it?
Yeah, I've been waiting for this to come up and honestly kind of hoping it wouldn't, because I don't know if I can do it justice. Obviously, I'm not, the most read up person politically or economically, which this really impacts. But all I can say is that this is just an absolute. I've heard. I know one prominent voice in the sports betting industry has called this an extinction event for professional gambling, at least sports betting wise in America. If it goes through, I mean, this is just the most crippling thing to happen in the gaming industry probably since online poker got shut down in 2011, and in some ways even worse. So yeah, you did a really good job, I think, mostly explaining it. Basically, now if you gamble at all, there'd be a phantom tax on any of your winnings. So yeah, like you said, if you bet maybe $100,000 a year, and it's total bets too. So you bet $100,000 a year. Let's say you break even 100,000. You're still you can only write off 90% of your losses. So you would owe $10,000 at the end of the year, despite not making any money. It was like snuck in at the end of the bill as one of these pork things. And I know the reactions I've seen have been hilarious, and just how long they are for the most part. I mean, I saw a lot of people say, "Oh, it doesn't matter. Anyone that's paying taxes on their gambling or reporting their sports betting is an idiot." And I mean, those people just have no idea the level some of these guys do this at. I mean, the guys that are doing it at the highest level, they pay their taxes. They have gaming accountants, and I've heard from who I would consider the best sports bettor in the world. I know he's said that if this goes through, he's done. He's not going to bet anymore. There's just no way he can make it financially viable. So I mean, there's so many tentacles in this thing. I guess the good news is, and why I'm more optimistic now, and I probably have a better tone than if you asked me when the Big Beautiful Bill went through, is one of our Congress ladies, Dina Titus, has introduced a bill to try to fix this. I guess again, not the political guy, but I guess it's somewhat easy when there's just this huge error or something that's going to affect so many people's livelihoods, because this affects the casinos too. Derek Stevens, the Circa owner, has really been outright now pushing, saying, he's hearing from all his high rollers that they're done, they're out, they're going to fly to Macau or they're going to go international. That there's no way that they can bet and afford it anymore with on top of all their losses, because this doesn't just affect winners. That's another thing people say. Oh well, 99% of people lose betting. Why do all these people think they're part of the 1%? That's just a fundamental misunderstanding. This would affect you if you lose too. But anyways, like I said, so many things going on with this. But Dina Titus is pushing this bill, and she has already drawn some bipartisan support. She's a Democrat, but some Republicans have jumped on it to restore the old. You can deduct 100% of your losses. And I really think the rep who pushed this in, I think his name's Foucher from Idaho. I think he probably didn't have much idea of just what he was doing. I mean, they were just trying to, from what I understand, is this is going to increase the deficit so much, and they were trying at the last minute to shove in ways where they could make some more income, and they probably looked, or not income, but just to get more money. And I guess they looked at it and said, oh, if we tweak this here, it's only going to affect professional gamblers, and it should add like $3 billion or whatever, not really understanding how much it was going to affect not only bettors, but the whole industry. So yeah, I feel like I'm rambling at this point. If you have any more specific questions, I'm pretty well read on the topic. It would totally destroy poker tournaments. I mean, the World Series of Poker right now is absolutely flying. Congrats to Michael the Grinder Mizrachi, kind of insane. He just won the main event in the Poker Players Championship in the same year. But basically now, if you entered any of these World Series of Poker tournaments, you're automatically hit with a giant tax. So the poker outcry has been huge. The sports betting outcry has been huge. And I guess I'm trying to be optimistic at this point that it'll get changed. But it is, the reactions I see where people say, oh, no one's paying their taxes on this anyway, or it only affects the winners. That just could not be more.
No, that's stupid.
Yeah.
That could not just be more wrong. This is a giant issue, and it's something everyone at the high level of the betting industry is talking about.
Cool. Right, well, it's a great way you described it. And of course, we're talking about a president, I guess the only president that I know, if I can remember, that actually owned a casino for quite a period of time. So you would think that maybe he would want to side with that bipartisan part of it. I think you're spot on. I think that everyone thinks, okay, whatever's making a lot of money right now, and gambling's obviously doing it the last couple of years, this has been legalized from pretty much coast to coast. We got to figure out a way to tax it. We got to figure out a way to make some money off of it. And when you're only talking about basically the IRS is taking juice. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. I mean, it's really funny that it's 10%. It's not 3%. It's not 5%, because typically you're taking about a 10% juice on a regular bet. The fact they're going the 10% too, making it 90%, which you could write off, I thought was kind of funny. But so any other thoughts on that below, you guys? You guys have any thoughts on it?
Let me say this lies in the face of what the big, beautiful bill was supposed to accomplish, which was bringing all kinds of industry and business and manufacturing and revenue back to the country that has been farmed out in the last 20 years because Wall Street and the corporations found that they could go overseas and induce slave labor, basically, to cut down on their costs. But this bill, as Case was just saying, this is going to do just the opposite for a huge growing industry in this country. It's going to drive the domestic product overseas, and it's going to take that right out of circulation. We had a problem for years in the pari-mutuel industry where they, if you bet $10 on a race and happen to hit a huge ticket for, let's say, $25,000, your taxation level, because they automatically deducted from winnings over $5,000, it didn't make any difference if you bet $10 or if you bet $20,000 to win the $25,000. The tax was still the same, even though you only netted $5,000 in that. They finally tweaked and fixed that after years and years of lobbying. So there is a precedent. They got that fixed up. I think maybe, I don't know anything about this Idaho congressman, and Case Dallas is right. There was a lot of people freaking out right at the end that this bill was going to add to the deficit. They weren't the fact that this was going to be so pro business, that it was going to generate so much revenue, that it was going to negate any fears that the initial investment was going to increase the deficit. And I suspect, some guys like this congressman were probably doing just what Case described, trying to put in revenue generators at the end, because they don't understand the dynamic that if it really stimulates the economy and economic activity, that it's going to have solid long-term effects. So I'm cautiously optimistic. There's enough real big players in the game, particularly on the probably the Trump team right now, that has too much of a stake in the game. I think they're going to have his ear on this, and I think there's a really good chance they'll get it fixed.
I would have to agree with you. Speaking of Las Vegas, by the way, I wanted to mention Kip and I, and of course the legend who did our show yesterday on ABC 3340, got a chance to go out to a guy who's going to be in Las Vegas playing at the Sphere several dates out there in December.
A 4-night residency, yeah.
Yeah, Chris Fryer, the drummer from the Zach Brown Band, joined us for lunch yesterday. He'll join us on ABC 3340's the starting lineup tomorrow morning from 10:30, 11 o'clock. You want to check him out. And
they're going to play the Sphere too, which is fantastic for them.
The Sphere, and then they're taking off for everything that is Australia, coming up a little bit later on in October as well. So best of luck to this guy. He's going to join us for the show numerous times. Big Alabama fan.
Yep, Chris, a lot of roll tides yesterday.
A lot of roll tides. All right, Major League Baseball here. K4Wins, K4Wins.com, at K4Winners on the X format. Of course, on our YouTube channel, we're live on it right now. K4Wins through the Tony Kurre Radio Network. Second half Major League Baseball, and I just kind of went through the schedule. There seems to be like 2 or 3 different tiers of Major League Baseball teams. Our teams are 15 or more games over 500. Detroit, the Dodgers, Cubs, Astros, Phillies, Mets, Yankees, Brewers. I guess you could throw Toronto in there. Then you got a group of teams that are like 3 or 4 games over 500, maybe 3 or 4 games under 500. My Cincinnati Reds, one of those teams. I can't wait till Green comes back. They need that pitching to stay soluble in the second half. And then you got teams that are just kind of wishers that are playing themselves out of it. One of those teams is playing extremely well, the Bo Sox, who Kai Gregory is a big fan of. 10 games in a row. They got the Chicago Cubs a little bit later on this afternoon. But your Bo Sox gone from 2 games under to 8 games over. Congratulations. And what do you expect in the second half?
Well, the last 2 years, Boston's been 101 and 86 the first half. They went 8-1 2 years ago, 10-3 last year in their last few games. Second half, they've been 58 and 79. So they have one of the toughest schedules remaining, in the American League. Their next 12, they're at the Cubs, at the Phillies, they host the Dodgers, and then at Minnesota.
Yeah,
they have, you can look at 15 different people that rank the schedules and all that. One of the ones I pulled up has your Reds with the second hardest remaining schedule. Has the Orioles with the hardest, but then has the Red Sox with the 6th hardest remaining schedule, right behind Toronto. Go figure. The Yankees' schedule is a lot easier. They're 19th. But even when you're talking about Detroit has the 29th hardest remaining schedule in Major League Baseball, according to a lot of the tops out there. So when you look at that, I mean, unfortunately, I think Boston's very young, and that may help them in the second half. But it's going to be real difficult. They've got they've played 88 games, so they've got
74 left.
Yeah, so it's going to be real difficult. Boston has to win to get over their 86.5 total. They got to win 34 games that they have left out of that. I mean, so a little bit over 500. It's going to be difficult with the schedule they have.
Yeah, I also got a futures bet on over just only because of Terry Francona. I took over the 78.5 of the Reds, and it looked like they're probably going to get that. I think of 7 games under 500 in the second half of the season. Anything else, Case, as far as in any future stuff, any movement out there in Las Vegas? Are you seeing anything? Obviously, you want to look at. Someone already told me this, and I don't know why. And we brought this up before. I've had a lot of friends of mine who've been books in the past, and I've always asked them, how do you win in baseball? And they've always told me that baseball is a streak sport. It's like you play streaks. And I never really understood what that meant. But, as soon as I'd run on a team that runs on streaks, they'd win one, lose one, lose one, go back and forth. Your thoughts on that, and what do you see as far as in any teams that perhaps are getting a little hot towards the end of the first half, going into the second half, getting healthy and getting ready to play some ball?
Yeah, I had some futures to give out. It's one of my list of things to do all week is dig through everything and kind of catch up with where the markets are. I've ended up this week, haven't got to it. Hopefully before the games start tonight, that's something I could do. As far as being hot, yeah, I mean, I think you started in the right place. The Red Sox haven't won 10 straight. Easy schedule, though. I still am cautiously optimistic they'll be in the mix. I think that youth is a big part of it. I mean, they have an upside that a lot of these other teams don't have. If a lot of these guys continue to hit, and they're just pitching, I feel like they've been getting a lot more lately. It seems like Bello might finally be beyond his injuries, and not that I ever wish anyone to get injured, but Tarek Skubals looked a little shaky his last starting in the All-Star game, so I'm kind of hoping maybe he takes a little sabbaticals. I think I talked about it before the year, even on this show. I really love Garrett Crochet to win the Cy Young, and I think there's a good chance he's in second right now. And if Skubal could just ever somehow slow down and the Red Sox keep it up, he could be in there. So that's going to be a really fun division to watch. And all those teams have kind of had their run. We talked, I think, a couple months ago where I was raving about how well the Rays were playing. They got right within striking range. Obviously, the Red Sox lately and the Blue Jays right before that to take the lead. I'm still pretty skeptical of the Blue Jays, and I do have, I think, the same number you said with the Reds. I think I have over 78.5 wins for the Blue Jays coming into the year. I was a little more bullish on them, but I think they're just the ways they're winning these games. It seems like they win every game by one run. Every game's a miracle. Those are the kind of games that's the kind of run usually fizzles out. So to me, I'd be pretty surprised if they ended up winning the division. I'm certainly rooting for the Red Sox. I have them in every possible way, futures-wise. But, really, if I had to make a call right now, I kind of feel like the Yankees have kind of been the opposite of the Blue Jays, just kind of having bad luck. I mean, they lead Major League Baseball in strand rate. They just strand runners left and right in scoring position. That usually evens out. They'll have games where they score like 15, and then the next game they can't score. That usually evens out. So a lot of the metrics say that the Yankees are still clearly the class. I'm hoping that they continue to not be able to get out of their way, but it seems like wishful thinking right now. And there's the other team that I'd say is super hot that you have to talk about. I was just shocked when I looked at the standings at the All-Star break, the Brewers only being one game back.
Right.
I think there's an argument the Cubs have been the best team in baseball. I've been so impressed with them, and I feel like with all the guys they've had break out, including most notably, of course, Pete Crow Armstrong, the strong pitching staff, I just thought they were going to run away from everyone. And I have a lot of Cubs positions. I can't believe now I'm scared of, three other teams in the division, but most notably the Brewers, who started the year so poorly. I still ultimately think the Cubs get it done, but yeah, your Reds are dangerous. The Cardinals have overperformed, so not many people expected the NL Central to be one of the best races, but it certainly shapes up that way right now. When
you're talking about odds, is there, and this is a great point, we all take a deep breath and get ready for the second half of the season and put in some future bets. Is there anything that is particularly alluring you? Is it winning the division? Is it winning the World Series? Is it winning your league? What are the best odds when you're talking about percentages for a particular baseball team, if you think your team's going to get hot in the second half?
Yeah, I mean, you guys probably won't surprise you at all from having talked to me about this for like a year, but I kind of bet everything, and I bet everything similarly stake-wise. So for me, I kind of just attack whatever I see. I would say most people you talk to would be more specialized and only like to bet to win the American League or to win a league or to win divisions. I would say in general for team futures, even though I'm betting everything, especially in baseball, the postseason just so random with these short series at the beginning. Like anyone can win and get hot. So if you really like a team and you feel strongly about them, I would say more. Again, I don't follow my own advice, but I would say more bet the league or the divisions or even to make the playoffs, just because you have this huge sample of games still where it's probably going to even out over time if your handicap is right. So I know it's lower odds, but I would take those before the World Series. I just ultimately still think there's a whole lot of luck and a whole lot of variance to who ends up winning the World Series.
All right, K4Wins.com, K4Wins.com. Check out the website. It's free. And, of course, you can also check it out. Subscribe to that bad boy. Get our plays. And we're hitting at a very nice clip. I think we've only had like one or two losing weeks in the last year. It's been unbelievable. Major League Baseball, certainly what we like to dip into. College football right around the corner, 6 weeks out. And we cannot wait for that. Also check out, of course, our television show here locally. You can also check it out on our YouTube channel on Tony Kurre Radio. That is a starting lineup at 10:30, 11 o'clock every Saturday morning right here on the Coastal Sports Network. SEC Media Days going on. We are down here in the southern part of the United States, three of us anyway, Case holds down there in Point Zero there in beautiful Las Vegas. Anything interesting, Kip, that you've seen? I know you've been on top of the SEC Media Days. Your credentials did not get approved again for the 23rd year to go. To go the SEC.
To be fair, I didn't apply this year because I was so mad at them last year.
for you. They actually gave me credentials, but I'm like, I'm good. Because I showed up at the Winfrey and no one was there. I said, oh, is it not here anymore? It's not here in Hoover, Alabama.
Yeah, in Atlanta at the Hall of Fame this year.
I hadn't been there for quite some time. And it's funny because I used to go to Vegas every year about this time of the year, and it was unbelievable how because I had to take my vacations in July. Every single year, I'd be flying back from Las Vegas and going straight to the SEC Media Days. And I remember the first 2 days, I was like in a fog on the Monday and Tuesday of SEC Media Days because I don't remember being there because I was just leaving Las Vegas for 5 or 6 days before. But any general thoughts on what you've heard from some of the SEC coaches? I know the FSU quarterback Castellanos is coming out and talking about, hey, Alabama doesn't have Nick Saban anymore. There's been some good stuff out there.
Yeah, there's a lot of trash flying around, but not from the coaches' podium. Probably the most notable thing that happened at SEC Media Days is when Steve Sarkisian was introduced for the Texas Longhorns, and they played as he walked on the stage the Texas A&M fight song. And Sarkisian didn't react, didn't even act like he was even cognizant of it. I said all week, imagine if Nick Saban had gone on stage and they started playing Rocky Top. I think he would have turned around and walked back the other way. So that was ever pulled that faux pas at SEC Media Days. That was kind of a bad look for the league. But you got a lot of coach speak. It's amazing when you watch these guys, the correlation of styles, and you can kind of see the programs that I don't know. You're kind of looking for hints about teams. There's coaches that go up there and convey all kinds of confidence and talk about their team and are excited about their teams. And then these other guys like Hugh Freeze, and he's kind of my whipping boy these days because he is the ultimate dog. He's already building in excuses why Auburn we've got great personnel and we've really done a great job and we're so optimistic, but it's just such a tough league and we don't know and we're doing things the right way, but a lot of other people are bending the rules. The guy is just a giant excuse maker before you've even kicked off the season. So there are guys that really rub me the wrong way. I'm not a Stoops guy from Kentucky, talking about he is the longest tenured coach in the SEC. I think they won 10 games one time in his 12 or 13 years. They basically are coming off a 4-8 season. They're just some guys that aren't really for a league of that stature. There's some coaches that I'm not that high on. I think Brian Kelly should be a PR guy for a pharmaceutical company because he talks 500 miles an hour and doesn't really say anything, although he conveys confidence that his team is stacked and the roster is what he wants for the first time. It's just a really interesting group of coaches, and I enjoy it. But boy, it's a lot of coach speak. They are just beside themselves overall trying to say anything provocative at that event.
Brian Kelly, you talk about coach speak, and I've been following him since, of course, he was at Cincinnati. I remember he was down here in Birmingham at the Birmingham Bowl 10, 12 years ago, maybe with the Cincinnati Bearcats. And I had dinner with him. Was a delightful guy. And the longer he's been a college football coach, the more FOS he has been. That's for no doubt. He is full of it. Left and right. Of course, when he's winning ball games and taking Notre Dame to national title games, he doesn't seem like he's had a big issue. Billy Napier, one of those guys I think a lot of people thought was going to do really, really well down at Florida. We actually had Tim Brando on our television last season. We were asking him of all the Nick Saban proteges, which one do you believe has the best shot at winning a national title? He said Billy Napier.
Yeah.
Billy Kai says that this is the best Florida team I've had. Going into SEC Media Days, and we used to feed off that stuff. When a coach says, and man, one guy who was just really good at that was Gus Malzahn. Gus Malzahn, every single year, would talk about just how great his Auburn squad was. And of course, the media would buy it because we're not used to hearing that. Nick Saban would never say his teams are good. And of course, we'd always pick them really high, and they would always come to D and expect for sure. But Kai, your thoughts on some of the SEC Media Days and the Florida Gators? They bounce back. This is a team we expect to see that's in pretty good shape every year in the SEC, but not so much the last few.
I don't know. I don't expect a lot from Florida. I just really don't. It's funny seeing them, seeing some of the preseason rankings that people had them in the top 25, and then their over/under on their wins is at 7.5. And I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah, that doesn't add up. Yeah.
Something's wrong here. So no, I mean, I know we talked about going through the SEC schedule, and we'll get more into it with that. I think the SEC Media Days is great and wonderful, but it's a bunch of hoopla. It always was. I went for many years here when it was in Hoover. And I mean, it is what it is. Talking about these guys, I expect the SEC to be the same it was. It's funny talking about Stoops. I don't think Kentucky gets the 4 wins this year. I think last year was, a sign of things to come, and I think they're going to go lower. I think a lot of the SEC schools are actually going to go under their totals this year.
You may have something there, and I think obviously adding a ninth conference game in the future would certainly play into that as well. I want you to pull up that Florida schedule for us real quick because I want to kind of go through that and see what we got. I know Kip has got a list of all the greatest quarterbacks in college football as we know it, and there's an amazing twist on SEC quarterbacks. We'll do in just a second. What does that Florida schedule look like right now for Billy Napier's Gators this year?
It's brutal.
The first game's
that's
tough one.
honestly my only concern with them. I sound like I'm the high person on Florida, but I am really high on Florida this year, and I believe Napier. I have 2 concerns. One is DJ Lagway's shoulder because I know he didn't practice in the spring. It sounds like from all the reports out there that he's fine. I still kind of want to see it. And number 2 is the schedule. I think that schedule fully explains the discrepancy between the 7.5 win total and being in the top 25. By some ranks, they have the toughest schedule in the nation. Other top 4. Let's see if I get it up here. I mean, SEC-wise, they have the 2 favorites, Texas and Georgia. Obviously, they have Georgia every year. But then you just look at the non-conference. They have to go to Miami. They play South Florida, who's going to be one of the better group of 5 teams, and Florida State. They did not take the easy way out and pack the non-conference with, I guess, week 1 they do have Long Island.
Yeah, I think they got a shot week 1.
I hate when you play FCS teams, which I talk about on the starting lineup this week. But yeah, I think schedule-wise is what concerns me. I honestly don't think Florida's getting enough credit for how good they looked at the end of last year. I mean, they beat Ole Miss and LSU, I think back to back, right? That was pretty impressive. I mean, I don't know I necessarily believe this, but they played Georgia tough too, and there's Florida fans that still say to this day if DJ Lagway doesn't go down, they were getting that monkey off their back and beating Georgia. I was really impressed by Florida at the end of the year. I don't put too much into these media days, having done so, that's the thing I've had to cover for almost 20 years now. And it's especially football wise, they just say nothing. I couldn't believe the lack of stories that came out of the SEC one though, but I do kind of believe Napier a little bit with his optimism. And you hit on the other one whose optimism is getting me high. I think I might be the only person on the show that I'm really high on LSU. And I know we disagreed on this already before, so not to belabor the point, but it really does make my ears perk up the way Brian Kelly talking about this team, because he simply has not done this other years at LSU. I was super high on LSU, I think, years ago going into the Florida State game, and Kelly kept talking about how much they stink defensively. They don't have any defensive backs, and I was like, oh, it's just coach speak. He's just saying that to get his team riled up. And sure enough, I mean, they just had one of the worst secondaries in the nation. So this year, when he's saying everything is in place, we're so focused on week 1. I have a great team. I don't know. To me, and obviously it's an inexact science, and I have the bias of already really liking LSU this year, but I kind of believe it. I think LSU is going to be a force this year.
Yeah, it's funny. I feel like coming from the media and being at 20-something SEC Media Days, I kind of feel like when a coach comes out and says that they look really good and they're optimistic or suspectly optimistic, we're willing to give them more of a pass when they're not, as opposed to a coach coming out, and unless he's always talking about how lousy the football team is and they always outperform themselves. But when you talk about how lousy you are, I'm always, from a journalistic standpoint, going, okay, why? We got you here. Here's a coach. You've been here for 3 or 4 years. Why is your coach not ready to? Why is your team not ready to play? So I'd much rather have them say, "Hey, listen, the team looks pretty good." And then it falls apart, whether it's because of injuries or because of lack of skill positions or whatever it is, as opposed to a coach coming in. Unless again, like you talk about a Nick Saban who was never happy with what they had.
If you look at the Florida schedule, if you go back through this, I mean, I think we can all agree they're going to beat Long Island. There's a win. They're probably going to beat USF in game 2. So there's a win. I'm with Case. I like LSU in game 3. They're at LSU. It's going to be a night game. So you got that. Then they go to Florida. Then they go to Miami. I'm not high on Miami. I'm not high on Carson Beck. I think Florida can win that game. But then keep in mind, they get a week off before Texas, and they get the week off before they play Georgia. So that could help them. So let's just say they're 3-1 if they beat Miami. Then they're at home against Texas. They have a week off. I still like Texas there, so they're still at 3 games. People may disagree. If we disagree, let's go. Then they go to Texas A&M. I got Texas A&M winning that game just because of the fact that I think that's a rough game, and I'm not super high on Texas A&M. Then they have Mississippi State at home the next week. I mean, Mississippi State's going to suck. They get a week off. Then they're home, or it's not home, but they play Georgia.
They're home at the Gator Bowl.
Yeah. Then they go to Kentucky. They're going to win that game. Then they go to Ole Miss. I don't think they're going to win that game, even though I'm not high on Ole Miss. They play Tennessee at home. I hate to say it, Tennessee does not win in Florida. Florida's going to win that game, and then they close the season with what is, again, an overrated Florida State team. So you're sitting at 7 or 8 games, depending on any discrepancies we've talked about right there.
Case, did you say you did have a futures bet on over in Florida?
Yeah, I took over 7 minus 140, and really this is one where I kind of went against my numbers. I have it right up in front of me right now. My raw data based on what they have coming back, strength of schedule. I actually have them number 1 strength of schedule. I came out to 6.8 wins, but again, I just feel like there's a lot of upside with this team with how intact they were able to keep their roster, and I didn't think it'd be this way, but Kip, we'll get to this when Kip's quarterback rankings. I feel like I'm just way higher on DJ Lagway than everyone else. I think the progression he made from when he came on last year to the end of the year, I thought was just outstanding. I mean, he has the upside to be the best. Even if you hate the guy, you have to say he has the upside to be the best quarterback in the nation. There's just not many teams that can say that. So I think, I like to look at wins like on a distribution, like a graph, and I feel like their tails are just a lot further both ways. You could see this coming off the tracks, Napier getting fired and then being terrible, but I could also see everything clicking and then being an SEC championship, a national championship contender. So I just really feel like there's upside there. I think that number is gone. I think it's mostly 7.5 now. So someone's thinking my way. If you can still find an over 7, even juiced, I like that. Even though it's 6.8, I just kind of ran through the schedule as Kai was doing it on top of my head, just snap reaction wins or losses. And again, I'm higher on Florida than everyone, but I came out to 9-3, so I'm a little bit higher on them than others. I'm high enough on them that I could give them, LSU and Miami back to back is extremely tough, but I'm high enough on Florida that I give them a 1-1 there, and I'm high enough that Texas at home followed by at Texas A&M, I give them a 1-1 there too. So I think that's where I don't know which ones it is. I think I would have those point spreads all really close one way or the other. So I guess my snap reaction is they get out of that stretch 500. And if they get out of that stretch 500, in my opinion, they're golden. The Georgia game's a tough one for me. There's a couple teams in the SEC that even if you're watching this show, you probably can't stand me and you can't figure out which side is this guy on. There's just 2 SEC teams I have flip-flopped on so much. It's Georgia and Oklahoma. I like them week. I don't like them the next week. I don't know. This kind of feels like the year where Florida gets over the hump and beats Georgia to me right now, though. I don't know, coming out of SEC media days and getting to talk to a little more people in the sport, I think there might be a little bit of concern with Georgia's defense for the first time in forever. I don't think that it's on the level that it once was. I still think they're the rightful favorite going into the year. 9.5 is the right total, but I don't know. I feel like that Florida-Georgia game is going to be close. I think most people would just chalk it up as a loss, like I think I did, and I wouldn't necessarily be as quick to do that either.
Before we get into some of these great quarterbacks in the NCAA, I can't wait to hear this list from Kip Kiefer this morning here on K4Wins.com, K4Wins.com at K4Winners on X. And, of course, the K4Wins YouTube channel is live. As a matter of fact, it's live right now. You can watch all of our previous shows and go back and check out all of our plays, K4Wins.com. Subscribe and get on it today. Did want to look at that Alabama schedule real quick, Kai, only because Kalen DeBoer obviously this week said, listen, we underperformed. Lost to Vanderbilt. We lost to Oklahoma. Shouldn't have lost those games. Obviously, that's unacceptable for Alabama fans, and it's playoffs or nothing for them. It's funny because it used to be SEC championship game or nothing. It was never just the playoffs. Now, I don't think even the conference championships mean anything because if you're one of those 12 playoff teams, your fan base is pretty doggone happy. You can ask Ohio State about that as well. But they're over under Alabama 9.5. It was 9.5 at the beginning of the season. Is it still 9.5, Case, for the
last update I had was 9.5 minus 110 both ways.
And so if that does go under, Kalen DeBoer is not going to be in a good place for the Crimson Tide, considering they hadn't lost 4 games since 2007. That's 18 years, kids. Give me that Alabama schedule and give me the over-under on wins for the Crimson Tide this year.
So as you throw that in, you also got to remember, at one point, Nick Saban had won 100 straight games against unranked opponents. DeBoer last year was 2-3. So
Ouch. Yeah.
against unranked opponents. So you got to think about that. I mean, they opened against Florida State. I mean, I think we all think they're going to beat State. So
Yeah.
there's one. Then they play ULM. They're going to beat them. There's two. Although that is one of the teams that
Chip,
upset
stop it. Stop it.
during that wasn't during the Tony Curry Billboard days. That was a little bit later.
I was
But
not. No.
yeah, all right. So then they play Wisconsin, but it's at Alabama. They're going to beat Wisconsin. Then they have a week off and go to Georgia. I don't know if you're seeing this. A lot of people have a week off before they play Georgia.
Everybody
They have
does.
a week off. They go to Georgia. I still have Georgia in that game. But we'll see. We've got to see how Ty Simpson's played the first 3 weeks of the season, how Gunner has played the first 3 weeks of the season, and how again that Georgia defense is. So let's just give that to Georgia, okay? Just to start, unless but you're looking at 3-1 at that point. Then they play Vandy the next at Alabama. A revenge game, especially with Diego Pavia running his mouth like he is. I'm not sure that he's going to come out of that game healthy. Then they go to Missouri. It might be the only time I actually root for Alabama because I think Drinkowitz is one of the biggest douches on the planet. Just close to him and Beamer are the two. And then the next week they host Tennessee, and Tennessee just generally does not win in Bryant-Denny. So I mean, right there, in the first 7 games they got 5 wins or 6 wins, worst case. Then they go to South Carolina. They have a week off and they host LSU. Then they host Oklahoma, Eastern Illinois, and they go to Auburn.
I see at least 9 wins there. I mean, I really do because I think they're going to get Auburn, they got Eastern Illinois, and I think they're going to bounce back against Oklahoma. So there's 3 more. I'm looking at 10. Yeah, is that what you see, Case?
Yeah, it's really weird position for me because they just obviously were so popular and so dominant for so many years that I feel like I've never been out on Alabama since I've been doing this. Professionally, basically, they just were so prohibitively priced year after year with Saban. Then even last year, I liked them, but I had them a little bit at arm's length. And this year, you've hit on. I swear, I'm not usually this optimistic. I have 9 SEC win total bets I've made so far. That'll probably be the final. But I bet 6 unders and 3 overs. But we've hit on 2 of the overs here immediately. I bet over 9.5 plus 110. I said it before. This is the team I'm highest on the SEC. I bet them 6-1 to win the conference. I was actually talking to someone the other day, and we'll see if this plays out. Obviously, we have a whole season, but they were saying if the NFL draft was held tomorrow, Alabama this year would have the most players going. That's a insight into how much talent they have. I think it's a lot more than people realize because of the way some things went sideways last year with the loss to Oklahoma. They have some of the best returning production in the conference. Looks like I have them top 5, and I mean one of the teams is Vanderbilt, which I don't really put much stock into. So I love Ryan Grubb. I think they probably lose one last game last year if he sticks there and doesn't go to the Seahawks. So if I have to, despite the odds, I mean them being the 3rd choice, they would be my pick to win the SEC, and I bet that, of course, at a good number. But I'm very high on them.
Yeah, and I think in the SEC and pretty much everywhere else too, I think it comes down to 2 things. First of all, your quarterback play, and a lot of people, we don't know what Simpson looks like. We've heard so many great things about this kid, and then of course, can they stay healthy? And one of the situations we're talking about Simpson, I think a lot of people think it's for Alabama, and it probably should be at some of the better schools. Just you should be bringing in 5-star quarterbacks every single year. You shouldn't have such a drop off every single time you lose a guy. And so I expect that the quarterback play to be good at Alabama and at Georgia. But Kip has got an entire list, I guess the top 116 quarterbacks in college football. And you had a very interesting take on the SEC quarterbacks picked on that list. Explain yourself a little bit and give us some of those top quarterbacks.
Well, The Athletic did a article this week where supposedly they got a blue panel group of experts. I don't know. It said coaches. I don't know if that means former coaches, current coaches, assistant coaches. Who knows? But their entire college football staff, other experts around the country very vague on who exactly made this list, but it was based on a point system that had all kinds of different criteria, including experience, including expectation. A lot of it's probably speculative, but 5 of the top 10 on the list are from the SEC, interestingly enough. However, the Heisman Trophy favorite right now in the betting, Arch Manning, is the 5th best quarterback in the league. For people betting Arch Manning to win the Heisman Trophy, that's an interesting observation. And Case had mentioned before DJ Lagway. I was really surprised that DJ Lagway is only considered coming into the year, despite the splash he made last year, the 4th best quarterback according to these experts, which I found kind of surprising. Or actually, yeah, that's right. He's the 4th. They have your guy from your son's school, Tony, Cade Klubnik, as the number 1 quarterback in the country. And I don't know if you guys want to get into that real briefly. I've seen Klubnik play for 2 years. I think he's certainly a quarterback that has been impressive, but I've never been really dazzled by the guy. Does he deserve all the accolades he's getting?
Let me say well, first of all, and for the same people that think that Arch Manning's going to win the Heisman Trophy, which is ridiculous. The guy hasn't taken a snap yet. He's just going off his name alone. Cup collecting is he's gotten better every single year. 36 touchdowns last year, only 6 picks. And I quite frankly, I had my eyes on him 3 times. I didn't think he looked that good, and I couldn't believe the numbers I saw: 3,700 and 2,300 passing yards. I do think though he's in a position where, out of the position groups, at least according to NFL Pro, Clemson's got the top guy in 6 of those 10 position points. They are loaded. You can say whatever you want about Dabo Swinney not using the portal. His kids want to play for Clemson. He didn't lose anybody. And so I expect them to do really, really well. I can't get past the name Klubnik. I'm sorry. I just think the name Klubnik sounds really strange. It's hard to say. I don't think people are used to saying it. He sounds like he's like the kid just ain't right. It's just a weird name. It's a weird ass name. And people are like Klubnik. It doesn't sound like a quarterback. It's not a Gunnar Stockton. It's not a Ty Simpson. It's not a Jalen Milroe. It's a Cade Klubnik. He's not a quarterback.
He's not a Tony Curry.
He's not a Tony Curry. He's not a Kip Keefer. He's got Kip Lash. I think people just aren't used to that Klubnik sound. It just sounds like something. It sounds like a really bad 80s band, like a Kajagoogoo
or a mafia enforcer. Send Klubnik out to make him pay up.
And I think because of that, we don't want to give this kid some credit. I do think that it's his to win if he wants. And I think based on their schedule, he should be right there in the mix. He'll be in New York later on this year for sure.
I agree, but I want to get into give Case a kind of a softball here on one of his unders for the SEC. So, because I know you played this, you had to have played this. I'm not sure what it is right now looking at it, but let's look at Arkansas' schedule. Yeah, I'm just kind of going in motion here. They open up with Alabama A&M, and I'm not 100% sure they're going to win that game, but they should. So then they've got Arkansas State the next week, probably 2-0, right? Then they go to Ole Miss. Then they go to Memphis, and I have Ole Miss and Memphis winning both of those games. I'm really high on Memphis in their league. Then they host Notre Dame, so I still got them at 2 wins. Then they go to Tennessee. They get a week off and go to Tennessee. Then they host Texas A&M. I'm still looking for another win. Then they host Auburn. Maybe, who knows? Then they play Mississippi State. I got Arkansas with a win there, but I'm kind of iffy. Okay, then they go to LSU. Then they go to Texas. Then they end with Missouri. What is isn't their win total 4.5?
I got 5.5 minus 120. I see Circa now's at 5. I would still feel confident going 5, but yeah, that is one I'm on. Under 5.5 minus 120, and it is too bad. I do like Taylon Green, and I think he was a good fit with Bobby Petrino, but man, they lost a lot of weapons. There's big turnover elsewhere on the roster. And I know there were some rumblings in spring that him and their receivers had some big. I don't remember the exact specifics of it, but when I was doing my prep, that the receivers and Taylon Green had some big rift, and they had to have some meeting where they come together. It just seems like the vibes are all off there. And you know, the one huge year Pittman had, they had like a couple NFL guys on the line. They were just dominant in the trenches, and by all accounts, the offensive line talent is way down this year. I just don't see even the system they're running them having the pieces to pull it off. So I'm with you. I'm very down on Arkansas. As far as the quarterbacks, I've been a Klubnik skeptic. I'm definitely not high on the guy, and I still really don't have can't take too much offense at this poll. I think if I was rating the quarterbacks, I would have him second. I think he made a huge leap at the end of last year, even though I still don't fully trust him and still don't love him. I mean, I think Tony nailed it when he said he's just gotten so consistently better. I personally think I would have Nussmeier 1 and Klubnik 2. I called up the list that Kip was talking about just so I'd see it, that they have it reversed. They have it Klubnik 1 and Nussmeier 2. How awesome is that week 1 game? I think it's just huge, which I think rightfully the two best quarterbacks in the nation by a lot of measures going against each other. And then, of course, we have Ohio State, Texas with Arch against Julian Sayin. My thing with Arch is, and I think 10's probably fair too. I guess I'm just a little more. You got to understand, like I've heard I think all you guys take exception to him being the Heisman favorite. I don't. That doesn't mean he's the best quarterback. You got to project for the end of the year. This is an award we give at the end of the year, not the beginning of the year. By most accounts, Texas has the most talent of any other team. So if they're going to be the best team, who always gets the most credit? This is mostly a quarterback award. It's going to be Arch Manning. He's a guy that, for a Heisman quarterback right now, you want someone that can do both. You want someone that can run and throw. I'm hoping that's not the case this year, considering my portfolio is built around Nussmeier and Drew Aller, who's 6. Those are both traditional pocket guys. And I might actually have Aller a little higher than 6. That's the other thing I disagree with. I feel like people just have a bad taste in their mouth because he was bad in the Notre Dame game. I think he's the reason they lost. I know it's more fun dependent on James Franklin because big games, but he threw that huge interception that changed the game. He was not good in that game, but during the year, I mean, Aller looked awfully good to me, especially when they opened up the offense a little bit when James Franklin took his tentacles out. So that's another guy I'd be higher on. But as far as Arch, I mean, if you believe in Texas, I just don't see a scenario where like Texas wins the SEC and is 11-1. In that case, I don't even care if he has warts. Again, his name is Manning. I think that's what you guys nailed on. He's going to have the stats. I just feel like at the end of the year, he's going to be right there. And I do think with all those factors in, he is the rightful favorite. Not a guy I bet. I would want to see more as well. But I've said this time and time again, too. If he goes to Columbus and beats Ohio State, I mean, the hype is just going to be an overdrive. He's going to be a giant favorite. So I have no issue with him being the Heisman favorite. And I even briefly considered betting him when Circa opened 10-1 because that seemed a little high, but I'm ultimately trying to beat him with you guys, but I totally understand why he's the favorite. I don't take much issue with it. Man, I'm kind of surprised in these rankings, actually, Josh Hoover and Sam Levitt even are higher than him. So I guess I am a little higher on Arch Manning. I might have him like 8 or 9 if I was doing my rankings.
There was this guy that I used to do a radio show with. His name was Jay Barker. I think he was 6 of 12 for 71 yards in the national championship game, and they won by 20 points. When Sark's talking about this may be the best defensive team he's had, and I know he hasn't been in Texas for a long period of time, that's got some pretty big ball weight to it, man, when you're talking about the SEC, because we've always talked about the SEC as where you play defense and defense wins championships. If this is going to be historically a great Texas defense that have given up 7-8 points a game on average, then Arch Manning may be that guy. I don't know if he's going to put those kind of numbers up because you also got Washington State dudes that are throwing the ball 80 times a game, and those numbers always look good on paper. But I don't know if Arch Manning, but I mean, again, that may be good enough to go undefeated in the SEC. Kip, but what other quarterbacks are on your list? Because you mentioned there are a bunch, like 5 or 6 different quarterbacks that are above Arch Manning that we should be on the look for.
There are 4. Case just touched on Nussmeier. Of course, Lenoris Sellers, who I think has a tremendous upside, and what we saw of him last year, he was spectacular. We'll wait and see what weapons he has around him to call upon. But he's right there. And then a guy we talked about a couple of weeks ago, the transfer from Washington State, who arrived with his offensive coordinator, Arbuckle, Mateer, who threw for a gazillion yards at Washington State last year, and now will be the quarterback for apparently a completely transformed Oklahoma team. He's right there. The SEC quarterbacks in that group behind Klubnik are 2, 3, and 4. Then you have DJ Lagway. I think he's about 6th or 7th, and then down in the number 10 spot is Arch Manning. That's 5 of the SEC quarterbacks in the top 10.
That's pretty amazing. Well, you bring up a really good point because I know you were all over Oklahoma last year, and I mean you were on them like dirt
because they were terrible. I mean,
they were terrible. But yet they beat an Alabama, and I do think they got better towards the end of the year. This is the job that Brent Venables wanted. This is the job that he held out to get entire life. And I don't know how many years he's been there already, but when you're talking about coaches, hotseat.com, he's in the top 10 right now.
Oh, yeah. He looked like a dead man walking yesterday at SEC Media
I'm glad you brought that up because he did not look comfortable, and he never looks comfortable. Brent Venables has never looked. He never looked comfortable
he might be one of those guys, Tony, that's just not a head coach. I mean, I don't want to typecast anybody. He's a great defensive coordinator, did a fantastic job at Clemson, but there's just been something wrong at Oklahoma since he's been there. The injuries last year were catastrophic. I'll grant you that. But people say, well, they finished strong because they beat Alabama. Their last two games, I know one of them was at LSU, and they got absolutely blown out. They did not. They lost their last two games after the beating Alabama. So I don't know. I think they've made the right move to kind of make their offense dynamic. They've got some good defensive pieces. I think they're one of the real sleepers in the league this year because Case said it best before. This is a team that could win 4 games or could click and actually win 8 or 9. So, and I think they are going to be a big determining factor in how some of these other teams come through because anybody that has Oklahoma on their schedule, it remains to be seen if that's going to be a walkover or if it's going to be a real tough game.
Man, I think you nailed it. I think you just absolutely nailed it because Oklahoma is Oklahoma. I mean, Oklahoma's Oklahoma. When they came into the SEC along with Texas, that was the big get. I think both those schools, and despite the fact that Texas had its own network and everything else, Oklahoma was still Oklahoma. They're still Oklahoma. And you have Brent Venables, who thought we were going to be a great coach. It's funny because whenever you bring in defensive-minded guys, it just seems like it takes a lot longer for the team to get it as opposed to offensive guys. Maybe because you can outscore guys when you bring in, I don't know, a Mike Martz. I think of a Mike Martz kind of guy all the time who was just an offensive wizard, but just was not a head coach for the St. Louis Rams. He wasn't a head coach. He could coach a game from a hospital bed, but he could not be on the sidelines. The guy just couldn't get it done. And I think for Brent Venables, I don't know if he's a head coaching protege, a guy who's going to make it the next level, but I think defensively, and that's why maybe he was a defensive program for a long period of time, but then this guy named Kirby Smart was too, until the Georgia job opened up, and he seems to be doing pretty good. Case, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think Oklahoma's the most fascinating team in the conference, and I kind of alluded to it. I don't really know what to do. Win or lose, even a terrible year, I love what they're doing, actually. They are just making this, like, they are going to see what they have in Venables this year. I mean, they kind of went to more of an NFL model. I can't remember the guy's name, but they hired an NFL general manager kind of right when that general manager trend started to sweep the nation. They told Venables, basically from what I've heard, you're not involved in the offense anymore. This is Arbuckle's show, which was badly needed. I mean, I think a lot of other programs should follow that, where they just take the coach completely off. I just can't wrap my head. And I loved Mateer last year. I remember there was one time on the starting lineup where I used like half my segment talking about Washington State in the games, how much I love them. I just can't figure out whether the offense is going to be as good as it now seems like a lot of people expect. I don't know if I said this on this show or another show. It's been a lot of football talk now lately, thankfully. But I've heard people compare Mateer to Cam Ward, and that's when I just have to say you really have to pump the brakes. I mean, Cam Ward was still playing in a historically good Pac-12. That was one of the best Pac-12s last year. Last year, Mateer was tearing up a bad Mountain West schedule. It was one of the worst years in the Mountain West. And yeah, he put up huge numbers. He was exciting to watch, but he also was turnover prone, and the Mountain West was down last year. I mean, Boise and UNLV were the only two teams that were even decent. So, now you throw them into an SEC schedule. I get the production and it is a little exciting, but I don't know. It's a gigantic move as far as strength of schedule, way bigger than what we saw Cam Ward go from 2 years ago. So I haven't bet anything on Oklahoma because, again, one day I wake up and I think they're going to be great and knocking on the SEC championship door, and then the next day the flaws kind of come up to me. So I think it's a make or break year for Oklahoma. I think 4 is a little higher than I would have Mateer. And I also got to say, I know this will be controversial too, as we've disagreed with it, but there's no way I'd have Sellers at 3. I think Sellers is tantalizing too, and should be in that tier 1, but number 3 is a little high to me. I'm so down on South Carolina this year. I mean, South Carolina does not recruit at the level of these schools. They do not have the budget of these other SEC schools, and they lost 5 defensive guys to the NFL this year, and I think all 5 were in the first 4 rounds. I really think their success last year was even more defensive than offensive. To think they can just pick up some guys in the transfer portal and replace all these guys that NFL scouts were drooling over, that just seems like a really high bar to me. So I'm a big sell on South Carolina and Oklahoma. I could go one way or the other. I think they're the ultimate wild card in the league this year.
You're talking about the West, you're talking about Boise and UNLV, and of course, one of those 5 teams guaranteed to make the playoffs. Kai Gregory's got those Boise State Broncos getting it done. What is your over/under on Oklahoma, Kai? I'm going to get your interest because I think Oklahoma's going to be one of those games where a lot of people are going to kind of push them aside and put a W next to it, but it may be one of the spoiler games, just like it was for Alabama last year.
I've gone back and forth on Oklahoma looking at their schedule. I mean, they open with Illinois State, so there's a win. And then what I think could be the absolute lowest scoring game in the history of football, well, it's not going to be Mississippi State, Auburn 3-2, but then they host Michigan the next week. And I think those two defenses, because I do think Brent Venables is a very good defensive coach. I think that could be a very low scoring game, but I actually have Oklahoma winning those first 2 games. I have them beating Michigan. And right now, I know that's kind of crazy, but I'm just not that high on Michigan. I'm not. I do not think their offense is going to be incredible. And that being at Oklahoma, being a night game, if Oklahoma is Oklahoma, they win that game. Then the next one was funny. I have them beating Michigan, and I'm not sure they're going to beat Temple the next week at Temple. Temple's not a strong program, but I just like some of the things Temple does. But
They better.
And it's a weird road game. Yeah,
there's Oklahoma at 3-0, and then the next week they host Auburn. We don't know what Auburn's going to be. I have Oklahoma winning that game. Other people may not, so that's 4. Then they play Kent State. All right, there's 5 wins. Then they go to Texas. Then they play that South Carolina team. So I have Oklahoma beating at South Carolina. There's 6 wins. Then they host Ole Miss. I got them losing. Then they go to Tennessee. I have them losing. Then they go to Alabama after a week off. I have them losing. Then they play Missouri. And then they play LSU. I've got them beating Missouri, but I'm not sure, and I have them losing to LSU. So I go back and forth between 6 and 8 wins.
A lot of times I feel like I'm wasting my time on these win totals. I feel like it's one huge pivot game. I feel like that Michigan game is a huge pivot. Right now I see they've taken some money. They only opened a 1.5 point favorite. They're a 3-point favorite in that game right now. Just to give Michigan a little love, as I know we had a commenter last week. I think Kai put him down. I don't know if Michigan's going to be great this year, but I just did all my Big Ten work. They have like the Indiana treatment of last year. They have the easiest schedule in the Big Ten, especially away from the Ohio State game. So I actually am a little higher on Michigan than I would think. And as far as Michigan at Oklahoma, you could convince me one way or the other. And I honestly think the result of that game is probably going to determine whether they go over or under this year.
Well, offensively, Michigan ranked 129th in college football last year. The worst. So I mean, they can't go anywhere but up. And you mentioned the fact that it may be a 3-2 ball game. I don't know what happened to Michigan's offense in the last 3 or 4 years. It's like they didn't even recruit that side of the ball. I mean, there's just nothing up there, and they're going to have to put some points up to knock off anybody. So very, very interesting stuff. Hey, great show today, guys. Check us out, K4Wins.com, K4Wins.com. It's a free website. You go there, subscribe. We have blogs, all kinds of great stuff. And, of course, we're getting our college football season coming up 6 weeks from yesterday. As a matter of fact, I believe it starts on Thursday. And, of course, the whole list of games. We got Alabama, FSU. We've got Notre Dame playing Miami. We've got Texas, Ohio State. We get some big dogs at the top. We have a very interesting segment that we did on our starting lineup, which will air tomorrow morning between 10:30 and 11 o'clock on whether you'd rather start the season with a cream puff or start with some great non-conference game. And before we go, we'll leave it with Kai Gregory because he hasn't got a chance to chime in yet. If you're a head coach in the SEC, do you go with the Kent States or do you do those FSU, Michigan type of games, those big Chick-fil-A games for your fan base?
You know, and I saw the SEC coaches and other coaches talking about they got to have that big game as long as it doesn't count against you. Well, I mean, you play the regular season for a reason. It matters. Me personally, you know, I like preseason games like the NFL has, and I totally understand that. I get that. But I don't want to – I am not interested in a 50-0, 50-3, 56-2 game. I want to line it up, play the best, let's go. All these guys are getting paid now. They're making NIL money. So why in the world should the NIL guys from Alabama play a Kent State versus playing the NIL guys from Ohio State?
Unless they're just playing interstate schools like Ohio State always does. It seems like Florida's doing it this year. They're helping out some of their small brothers.
Absolutely. That should happen every time. Alabama
Maybe
should play UAB, Jim.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, there
Trent
you
Gilbert
go.
would take that. Can we get a home and home, please? Can we get Alabama down
Yeah,
to Texas?
not gonna happen. Tony,
right.
if Ward Manuel, the committee chairman, declares last year in the middle of the year, well, we don't put much stock in strength of schedule,
Yeah.
that tells you right there you should not play any high-profile games. And a lot of athletic directors reacted right away, including Greg Byrne in Alabama. Well, if that's the policy, we're going to stop scheduling the way we are. We're going to play lower class teams. That was the most asinine statement of all time. That committee is there to analyze all aspects of a team's strength, and who you play has got to be critically important. Look at Indiana last year. They played no one. The only legitimate team they played all year was Ohio State, and they got waxed in the playoffs. It's just a joke. If it's just going to go on win and loss record, why would you play legitimate teams?
Ward also switches his mind more than my ex-wife did.
Yeah, and he's from Michigan. That's enough said.
Enough said. Thank you very much. This is K4Wins.com. Until next Tuesday and next Friday, 10 o'clock Central Time, right here on the Coastal Sports Network and on Tony Kurre Radio. Thank you, guys.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.